2.
All right, it is, I believe, 7 PM. Yep, it is 7 PM on Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. Would normally be calling to order the Ottawa City Planning Commission study session, but we're going to delay this for a few minutes until we see if we can get a quorum here to go ahead. We have a public hearing scheduled for tonight, so we're going to delay for a few minutes to see if we can get a quorum, so we can take action and run the meeting tonight. So with that, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go see if Billy's next door, and if he is, I'll have him come over and open the meeting with us.
Was he in there?
He's gonna be in a meeting with Craig, maybe that was meeting here, but that's not the meeting, evidently.
Okay.
I don't have any- Would somebody try to contact Brian Kane,
I
please?
just sent him an email. I don't have his cell phone number.
I do. Went to voicemail. Very enthusiastic voice message.
I texted Commissioner Crowley to see if he was in the building, which he said he was, but I don't know where. Earlier today, he said he would be here, and asked him if he could join us by Zoom if he wasn't, so we'll see if he answers. Okay. Boardsource.org says, lacking a quorum, do you open a meeting? It says you can still conduct a board meeting without a quorum. However, you will not be able to complete business of the board, conduct a board vote, or make any decisions. Therefore, it is 7:05 p.m. on Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. I'm going to call the meeting of the Ottawa City Planning Commission to order. Would you call the roll, please?
Member King, Vice Chair Winika,
Yep.
Member Stresnick Dean, Chair Lantis.
Here.
Member Elmer. Here. Member Crowley.
All right, lacking a quorum tonight, we won't be taking any votes on any item on the agenda. However, we do have a public hearing, and we're going to open the public hearing because we have people here that want to comment, and then we will, because we can't take any votes, I'm not even going to be able to close the public hearing, I don't believe. So, you can at least
You can close, you can close.
You know what, I'd better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission, so, we've got one item on the agenda that's, was published for public, hearing, and that is a conditional use permit for 426 East Wilson, Northeast Village Richmond Circle Partnership. Randy Wilbanks is the agent, of record. I'm gonna open the public hearing. And first thing I'm going to do is, staff, would you like to make comments tonight, or do you stand by what you presented to us in the...
We do have a, excuse me, sorry. We do have an abbreviated presentation from the study session and do have some additional tightening of the conditions that we originally presented during that study session.
Okay.
All right, so starting off, as we went over in the study session, this application is for the Northeast Village development located at 1426 East Wilson. This is an application for a conditional use permit to allow for the development of 40 single-family dwelling townhomes on the currently vacant property. This image right here shows you the general location of 1426 East Wilson. It's the corner highlighted right there on the left. And then the center image shows the current zoning of the property. It is currently zoned C2, but was recently approved by the Planning Commission for R2, medium density residential, and that will be proceeding on to the City Commission for final approval. And the future land use map on the right-hand side here does indicate this property as commercial/residential, showing the kind of continuation of the zoning in the surrounding area. This is a closer look at the existing conditions of the property. We're zoomed in on the vacant parcel right there highlighted on the map, and you can see in the top right-hand image the surrounding area. You have Wilson and North Davis, and you have the largely vacant property right there in the center of it. And sorry, I believe...
Is Commissioner Kane on now?
I see Mr. Kane online.
He's on that.
Commissioner Kane, are you...
Yeah, he's on. There he is.
Sir, if you're there, you're on mute. There you go.
Are you there? Can you tell if he's on mute or not?
He's not on mute at the moment. I don't see that. I just don't hear, we just
But I
don't hear
can see
him.
him.
Yeah.
Okay, make a note that Commissioner Kane is present via Zoom, so we do have a quorum at this time. All right, so I'm sorry, would you go ahead and continue?
Real quick, I guess, for clarification, given that we do have a quorum now, would we need to kind of backtrack and open the meeting officially?
Public hearing is open. I can open the public hearing.
Okay. I didn't know if there was a roll call aspect or anything like that. Apologies. So as I was saying on this slide, you can see the existing conditions of the property, which is currently vacant. So the site is currently in process for review and approval by the City Commission for R2 zoning, which is medium density residential district, from the current C2 commercial district, and is approximately 3.63 acres in size. It's been an undeveloped parcel since the creation of that parcel, at least to staff's knowledge. Within the R2 district itself, 4+ family dwelling units are allowed with a conditional use permit, thus the conditional use that is presented before you all this evening. And the required minimum lot area for this particular type of development would be 3,500 square feet per dwelling unit. And the required minimum building setbacks applicable to this site are 20 feet in the front, 6 on the side, 10 on the side abutting a street right-of-way, and 20 feet in the rear. The intent of the R2 district is to provide for 1 or 2 to 3 family dwellings with some accommodations for 4+ family dwellings as conditional uses. And through the CUP, the R district will allow for the development of townhomes here. This application also works with the stated goals of the comprehensive plan, which would support development of affordable and appropriate housing for all segments of the community. And this image right here shows the conditional use outlined within the zoning code here. And at 40 proposed units, the resulting density on the site for the dwellings is going to be 3,959 square feet, which exceeds the minimum required density standards of 3,500 square feet for 4+ family dwellings within the R2 district. Staff has reviewed the application against factors outlined in the conditional use application and has made the following findings. Staff does find that the use would be both consistent and compatible with the intent and purpose of the zoning code, as the R2 district would allow for moderate density as a conditional use. Proposal is also consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan as stated on the previous slide, and it is planned to be targeted at the 55+ community and would provide affordable and functional housing built to a standard compatible with the existing development in the area. Additionally, staff has found that the property is suitable for the proposed use. It's currently vacant, and this development would allow for infill, and the project would meet the height, yard, and lot density requirements as outlined within the city code. The proposed use would also not place any undue burden on the existing transportation, utility, or service facilities in the area, which is currently available on site, and what is available on site would be suitable for the addition of the proposed townhomes and for development. Staff has also found that the applicable factors for consideration of a conditional use permit have been met, with the exception of the conditions of approval outlined in the staff recommendation. Staff does recommend the approval of this conditional use permit with the following conditions. The resolution of a structure built over the southern property line before issuance of building permits. Landscaping in compliance with the requirements of Article 20 of the zoning regulations shall be shown on the site plan and subject to review prior to issuance of a building permit. Sidewalks constructed to City of Ottawa design standards along Davis, Wilson, and Cross Winds Drive by the developer, and a fully executed development agreement between the developer and the City of Ottawa, building and driveway permits to be obtained before construction.
Does anybody have any questions for staff on this?
I know that there was the question that I had, for instance, I know that in the past, we've required a parks fee. Is that one of the conditions? Is that something that's already worked into the site plan? How do we address that?
That was not in the original discussions I was having when I came into this project. A parks fee was not included as one of the conditions for this.
I know, I was looking for it, but I couldn't find it, but it is a requirement, any new development, from what I can recall.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
but
that's
I believe
fine.
that there is a park located on the actual property.
There's a children's area, yeah, there's a play area.
Yes.
So that's not like a city park, though. That's,
Well, yeah, and I believe we'll have to look into it a little bit further, but I think was the discussion in the beginning, is that since there's the park
Okay.
there, but.
And it's interesting you would say that, because I think they come, the builders that I'm aware of, I think they pay the park fee when they get the building permit. I think that's assessed at the time that the building permit is issued, so as opposed to a conditional use permit, it would be an assessment, I think, when, And I just recalled that, so.
Right, I couldn't remember exactly how
Yeah.
that came, that's why I was looking
I know
for
our
it. and-
developer, or our builder, I'm sorry, the builder across the street at the Coves, he pays a park fee with every building permit that he takes
Right.
out. So, yeah.
And Chair Lantis, I did you actually open, I know you opened the meeting, but I didn't.
I did
hear you
open the
say
public hearing.
public hearing.
Yes, I did. I most certainly did. And so, it looks like, Member Sturesnik Dean is
Online as
joining
well.
us by audio only. So, first, Commissioner Kane, do you have any questions for staff? I want to see if we can get his audio taken care of.
In the meantime, I'm just out of curiosity because I didn't make it to the other hearing. You have findings 11.
This is Diana.
Hi,
Thank you for
Diana.
joining us.
Thank you, Diana.
Um,
And I'm sorry, it shows Commissioner Kane still on mute. I don't know whether it's on his end or on our end.
Hey, can y'all hear me now?
Yes, we can now. Okay. Did you have any questions? Hearing none. Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Elmer.
So item 11, uses for a solid waste disposal facility, including sanitary landfills, according to the Franklin County Management Plan. It says factor is not applicable.
Brian, I was able to hear you. This is Diana Starcynic Dean.
Thank you, Diana. I'll be with you in just a second, okay?
First of all, why is that a part of the findings? And if it's not applicable, why is it not applicable?
Do we have a quorum?
We do have.
It is part of the findings as outlined on the application. It's a very specific item that would be included for the instances when this would actually come up if someone was working to create a demolition landfill or a transfer station or something of that nature. This is a residential development and it just is simply not applicable with this
Okay.
item.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Sturesnik Dean, I know you're ill. We have an issue here. We have 3 of us in attendance, and we have another one that's on Zoom as they're driving down the highway. So their attendance is intermittent. If you could just please stay on so we have a quorum. We really appreciate you taking the time to come with us because we know you're very ill. But if you could stay on so we could have a quorum at least until we can get through the public hearing, we'd certainly appreciate it. Okay, does the applicant wish to make any type of presentation tonight? If so, please just come forward and state your name for the record.
Doug Bohai from Olathe, Kansas, and representing the ownership group, Mr. Wilbanks. Not an official presentation. I was a little bit taken back when we had our zoning process, and the question was raised, do we need a conditional use permit? And in that meeting, it was declared we didn't. And then a few days later, staff called me and asked me if I would be willing to go down the route of conditional use permit, that it would benefit the R2 zoning, I think is how Mr. Neese put it. So we filled out the application. We have in good faith continued to try to resolve our boundary line adjustment situation. Don't have that resolved. But one of the stipulations that was put on there is waiting or not being able to take out a building permit prior to having that situation resolved. I don't know how it gets resolved at this time. We made a good faith offer to resolve it. We've done the survey. We've plotted the piece to remove from our track. But I had asked staff yesterday if there's a possibility of if something has to be worked out through the legal system, we're kind of the victim in this thing because we bought a piece of property and there's an encroachment on our property and we're told that we have to get it resolved. And so I had asked if we could push that trigger mechanism to a TCO. When we would apply for a TCO, we would have to have it resolved in case we were in some kind of litigation process, not knowing how long that would take. Court systems sometimes take a while. So that's really the comment. We want to remain cooperative with our neighbor and also with the staff. I think we've expressed, for the most part, cooperation, sometimes with frustration, but for the most part, we've tried to cooperate. So with that, I will leave it. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission, for hearing me out.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak to this issue? Please come forward and state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Susan Moore, and I live at 902 North Davis, which is we are the encroachees into this property. And so, given we have about 3 minutes, I'm not going to bore you with all the gory details, but we started about 8 years ago trying to build a garage. We went through the appropriate planning process with the staff for the permitting office. They gave us a permit after coming out and visiting and saying our proposed site was too far on the next property. We needed to move it back. So we moved it. They came out and said, yep, that's where we told you to put it. And so we had these sticks and these strings, and we went ahead and built where they told us to build. We got a local person to help us, and we got a kit from our local company, and all those things. We were doing the right thing because we thought, and he came out and assessed how we were doing, if we were building it the way we were supposed to and supporting the structure and all that. So then after we got done building it, he came out again to say we could or couldn't occupy that space or use it as a garage. And so he said, yep, it was all good. We had done exactly what was asked. What we didn't know, and Mr. Bohai gets the privilege of being the messenger, was we're 7 feet on that property, which we didn't know. We had provided all the survey documents to the city inspector. We had gone through it with the city planning people and thought we were doing all the right things. You know, as you know, my husband Tony works with cars and I work in the healthcare system. We don't read survey documents every day, and we don't look for pins. We didn't know what a pin was until a couple months ago after he told us what a pin was. So now we're left in a spot with having several options, and that's why it's not resolved yet between us, you know, because what we know is that even if we purchase the 7 feet of property from Mr. Bohai's person, the city can still come back and tell us to take the garage down because we would have to apply for a variance to the rules that they told us we were in compliance with. And to me, that's not, it just doesn't compute in my mind. They're now saying you're going to have a setback as well as having this 7 feet. And I guess I'm not a political creature, and I'm not one that reads city code every day, so all that is a foreign language. I can tell you from a healthcare perspective, if I saw you as a patient and I gave you a medicine that affected your ability to, or cost you money, and over an 8-year period of time, then suddenly you were cost all this money, you would probably come back and sue me. And that's kind of where we feel like we are at this time. We don't know how to get it resolved to where we can have a setback and the property, and it just is there's too many incongruencies in my mind. So thank you for hearing me.
I'd like to ask you a question if I
Sure.
could. Who is it that has told you that should you buy the property, that the city could then come back and tell you to tear the property, tear the existing building down? Who has told you that? Is that somebody with a legal background that's told you that, or is that somebody at the coffee shop that's told you that? And I'm trying not
That
to be
was-
flip, I'm just trying to
Right.
get where you got that information.
Mr. Neese. That's staff. Is that what I was supposed to say? Staff, Mr.
Okay.
Neese.
So okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so he sent me the variance application, which is going to be another $200, for which we don't know if we'll get it or not. It seems like to me we'd have to have a variance before we could buy property, because if you can still come back and say, we're going to tell you to knock down the garage. So am I making sense? I don't know if I'm making sense.
Do you
Because
do
I'm
you
nervous.
still have you still retained your building permit application and
Yes, sir.
your building permit
The,
your issued building permit, and you didn't get a certificate of occupancy since there was no,
we got the thing where they're coming to look at it, the permit was closed, and it was like there was an intermediate step, and he wrote on there that it was good, and then at the end it was good and closed, acceptable for use, or something
Okay.
like that. So we got that, yes, I have that on my email, just because it, it's part of public record. And so I think that's kind of where we are. We're just, first of all, it's a new bastion for us, as it were. And so we're just trying to navigate that, and so we're just kind of saying, well, all right, now what, kind of, so.
well, we wouldn't even be asking these questions. But
Right.
because it's a condition of the permit. We
Certainly.
sort of need to know what's going on and what the delay is.
Yes.
So, but the developer has offered a solution.
The-
From what I hear from you, the issue with the solution is that government, our planning department, may not buy off on that solution. Am I,
Correct.
okay?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I don't know anything about, their plans and how they're drawing up their site and things like that. And if there could be, I don't know, if there's shared easements, or if there's whatever, I don't know what can be worked, because I don't know enough about it to be creative enough to think of other options.
All right.
But we know that we don't want to, no offense, we don't want to give him money and then have you all come and say, we got to take it down anyway. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, sure.
And is there anyone else that wishes to speak to the issue? No? Okay. All right, would staff like to respond to that, please?
With some trepidation with the threat of litigation. Susan and I had a nice conversation, and staff's recommendation to BZA would be to allow the variance. I want to be clear about that. My best understanding when we spoke was that we would want to go through a variance, and that would be BZA's decision, but it would be with a strong recommendation from staff to allow that variance.
What's the term? Is it ex post facto?
Yeah.
Yeah, ex post facto. I think that's what it is. There's, to resolve this, would it be possible, because one of the questions that they have is, they jump through all the hoops with the controlling group that was there at the time that they did their project. If they can document it. If they can document what they say. They did what was required of them. Is there a way that, since the variance is not caused by, was caused by a misunderstanding or misinterpretation, whatever, that the $200 application fee could be waived as a measure of good faith? Is there a way that can happen? And if I'm asking questions that you guys don't agree with, please.
Oh, no, I completely agree. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking waive the fee, if anything. And then I was thinking that, and I don't know the cost or what the setbacks are. I mean, it sounds like as if you'd be willing to sell 7 feet, but what about the setback option? So that they wouldn't even have to have a variance.
To which I would ask the question.
We don't
That's
have
not my
enough
business,
rear yard
so,
for
yeah.
the fire lane, or we'd be happy to try to accommodate that.
Right, and that's what she was referring to as to, she doesn't know the layout of everything and where everything is associated and set onto the property.
And what we're talking about is doing a 0 lot line.
Yeah.
And that would be the variance.
Yeah. What's involved, just remind me again, what's involved in approving a variance? That's not something that.
Board of
comes to
Zoning
us
Appeals,
like-
no
so
city.
just-
It's a hearing, so it's a published hearing, unfortunately, with the Board of Zoning Appeals. We did, at our last meeting with the Board of Zoning Appeals, we sort of talked about this possibility, just to have a sense, and we didn't receive negative feedback.
Okay. But the Board of Zoning Appeals, my recollection is, I served on it years and years ago, it's the final authority. So what the Board of Zoning Appeals does, doesn't have to go on to another authority.
Correct.
Okay. Well, because here, for me, yes, they came to us with a project that fulfills a need in the community. And I don't know whether it was us, or I don't know whether it was our consultant we had at the time, but we didn't read the regulations right. So now they're back to us to try to take care of an issue that they were willing to take care of from day one. They just didn't know that they had to. Now it's exacerbated a little bit by an issue that was caused 9 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever it was. So, but it's a small issue, and we can't hold up.
A project.
If the only people here to speak to it are here to say, project's okay with us, it's right next door to us, but we've got this little issue we need to resolve. We can't slow the process down anymore just for this little issue, I don't think. Is that, am I?
I agree. I agree with you.
Commissioners on Zoom, do either one of you have any thoughts on this?
This is Diana. I had the same question, which is whether the Board of Zoning Appeals is the final authority, or if they don't give a desired response, if the applicant can appeal up a different ladder. But it sounds like that's it. They make the final decision, correct?
That'd be staff would have to answer that.
Yeah.
Yes, they can appeal.
Who would they appeal that to?
I believe it goes to, I would need to double check this
Okay.
offhand, but I do believe it goes to a local court.
Okay.
But I would double check on that.
Okay. But that would only be if it wasn't if there was a response that they were not amenable to.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else?
I just feel like you've got two entities here who both have been doing everything that they've been asked to do. And I feel like there has to be a way to work this out.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't feel like anyone's at fault here. If the variance is something that can be granted, but what kind of a timeline does it cause? How does it interfere with the timeline of the project?
That was another question I had, but, and by the way, the other commissioners here are nodding in agreement with what you're saying, so, yeah, we all, I think, feel the same way. So that would bring up another question, and the question I would have is, even though building permits can't be issued for the structures, can the engineering and the design and the dirt work start on the rest of the project? Can the grade work and stuff be started while this goes? If it takes 60 days to get this through the variance process before they can apply for a structure building permit, does that preclude them from doing the work necessary to prepare the sites?
Not necessarily.
Is that not necessarily, or is that?
Yeah,
no, it
yeah,
wouldn't?
yeah.
There's likely some opportunity for us to have that discussion, given that this is a condition that we placed on this for approval, the building permit aspect of it. there can likely be a discussion about whether or not grade work can start and things of that nature. But it would be something we want to sort of
Now,
have a longer term
who's
discussion.
involved in that discussion?
It would be Zach and myself and the city attorney.
Okay, because building permits don't deal with the grade work. Building permits deal with the, once the pad is built, you locate the property, the building permit's issued with a site plan for that particular building. So there should be some work that they could start while we go through this process, I would think. I can't imagine they can't start doing rough grade work and get in there before it gets started, and even though this is a,
I actually think that you are required to have a building permit for the grade work, because something similar happened with the car dealership. They started doing grade work beforehand, and
that was,
do you
that was
recall-
that was because they didn't have all of the work back from FEMA, I believe.
We
I believe-
have a land disturbance permit that they would have to apply for when they start doing the
Okay.
groundwork.
But that's not a building permit.
It's separate from the building
Okay.
permit aspect.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, two parties here. I think we're here to consider the application, and I personally do not think, I think it's unfair that the applicant experiences further delays because of something that's beyond their control, something that, beyond the other party's control. I think what's a way forward? I think I heard something about a temporary, does that solve, does that allow for that? It doesn't?
I'll be honest, city staff
Okay.
would be uncomfortable with that route.
Okay.
With which route is that?
With moving from the building permit to the certificate of occupancy.
Right, okay.
TCO, the
And I understand
temporary.
that,
Okay.
I understand that part.
Okay.
But I guess if they started today, if they had earth moving equipment there tomorrow, they're not gonna be ready for pads for, I mean, they couldn't locate their underground because they don't know where their underground's gonna be.
4 or 5 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, see, I mean, before they'd even apply for bills, so that should be plenty of time. Even if we have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for the variance, that should be plenty of time for that. And so,
Is there a mechanism for us to, we don't have a way of communicating with the Board of Zoning, right?
I would be happy if you wanted to
A memo could be
pass
sent
some sort
from
of
us.
a statement that you're in
Okay.
favor. We'd be very happy to communicate that to the.
well, let me go this route then. Does the applicant, does the staff, do the people that are here to speak to the issue, do you have any more comments that you'd like to make before we close the public hearing? Please come up and just state your name and your address.
Tony Moore, 902 North Davis. One of the issues that I have is as far as the amount of money he was asking for was $5,000 for that 7 foot of property. And I feel like it might be a reasonable amount, but I feel like this whole thing started with us doing the right thing, trying to do everything they asked of us, but it still came back on us. The city's kind of putting this back on us like it's our fault. I don't feel like we should have to pay that amount of money, any amount of money, for something that wasn't our fault. And that's kind of where we've been kind of, what do we do as far as, getting an attorney? We're kind of in between on what we're doing. Like I said, I don't feel like we're responsible to pay the money.
Well, Mr. Moore, I don't think we can actually get into that. That is clear outside of our bailiwick.
Okay,
That is-
I got you.
That is something for you to talk to an attorney about.
Okay.
I know as a real estate professional, I know what my comment would be to you, but I'm not here as a real estate professional. I'm here as a
Gotcha.
planning commissioner, and so that I won't make that comment. But we appreciate what you have to say.
Sure.
But that's something that's outside of our scope, what we can consider.
Okay.
What we can consider is you guys have to work something out for him to get a building permit. That's
Gotcha.
what we have to, that's what we
Gotcha.
have to do.
Well, I just wanted to bring that up
Yeah,
because it sounds like you're trying to move everything along. but-
Appreciate it.
But it ain't going along until we get
It's on the record, you've got it
figured out.
on the record, so thank you for your comments. Sure. Okay, anything else?
Well, yeah, well, at the same time, I fully understand
Yeah,
the situation they found themselves in.
Yeah.
Because they fulfilled, to use a biblical term, all righteousness, right? When they went through this process, and the developer has fulfilled everything, and I think I like what you said. Right now, we're here to consider.
yeah.
This.
Yes, I just want to say, I empathize with their position. We did not try to take advantage of them in what we offered. We have engineering that we had to redo to adjust what was already paid for. And then we had to get survey crews and engineers to write up legals, and they have to go record it. And all of those things, nobody works for free. So I empathize with them. Now, I have as Mr. Neese can tell you, I'm a creative thinker, okay? So I have a solution. If they could get comfortable with the Board of Zoning Appeals, why doesn't the city find a way to maybe discount some of our fees, to where we could justify discounting the purchase of that tract? So that's, I put that out. I thought of that as I was driving down here tonight. I don't know, and you guys don't make those decisions, but for the record, I'm throwing that out as a possible workaround type situation.
And I appreciate that. That shows your willingness to work with the people who are having the difficulty. So thank you very much. Now, is there anything else on the public hearing? If not, what I intend to do is close the public hearing, not continue, close the public hearing, and then have commission discussion, and we can bring Commissioner Dean and Commissioner Kane in with their thoughts and comments. So anything else needs to go on the record as the public hearing? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing as of whatever time it is right now, and we'll open the floor up for commissioner discussion. And since we've all talked a little bit here, Commissioner Kane, do you have anything that you'd like to say or present?
Well, my only concern is it sounds like a jumbled mess that was created many years ago by other administration within the city. And I would love for us, as a planning commission, as city commission, as city officials, as developer and landowner, to come to a consensus on how to resolve that doesn't impact as Commissioner Wanika said, the righteousness of what the Tony, Mr. Moore, and did for his property and his development of his garage. So I think the onus is on the larger city scope to figure out a solution to resolve this.
Thank you. Anything else?
Do we have to wait for a specific Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, or can they call a special meeting?
My recollection is all of their meetings are on the call of the chair. They don't have a regular monthly meeting. They do their meetings on the call of the chair. It would probably have to be published,
Correct.
so you'd have a 20 or 30 day, whatever the statutory requirement is for the publication. But still, they can, should they choose to, they can make a decision at that meeting. So we're not talking a long drawn out. We're not talking about a long drawn out process to do this, and so yeah, I think if we were to make the decision to go forward, I think this is something that could happen fairly quickly. I just don't know if it'll happen fairly quickly to the approval of all parties, but it can happen fairly quickly, I think. So, anything else, Commissioner Starestine?
I just feeling what Commissioner Kane said, which is this is a bit of a mess. And I apologize to our applicants for having this additional hurdle. It sounds like though there are potential solutions. So right today we're essentially we're looking at approving, or I should say, basically accepting the findings and then approving the conditional use permit. Is that where we're at?
Yes. Well, not approving the conditional use permit, recommending that the city commission
Correct.
approve the conditional use permit.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, my mind's a little scrambled.
No, that's okay,
Not
because
feeling
a lot of
so
things
good
we can approve, but this is not one of them. This has to go,
Right.
We hold a public hearing for the city commission. We recommend that city commission approve or deny the conditional
Can
use
we
permit.
approve this with a caveat that, or can we recommend approval with the caveat that they find a solution to this variance
Well, I
issue?
think by the basis of that condition, they have to find a
Yeah.
find a workable solution. They can't go forward, the applicant can't go forward without finding a solution I hate to say the aggrieved, because they're not, they're just a victim of circumstances. The victim of
Right.
circumstances is amenable to, I think. So that's sort of where we are if we pass it as it's written.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair.
Well,
just-
I think staff
sir.
had a comment.
I'd like to just make a point of clarification on city processes when we're reviewing a site plan. We are only reviewing whether or not what is being proposed is situated on the site that's being presented to us. And we don't make any warrant beyond that.
Okay.
And that is
Good point.
just to clarify some of the discussion.
Having been a builder in this town for some time, and having been then associated with builders after that, in the discussion, and I tread lightly because I don't speak for the city, and I don't speak for staff, but there was one thing based on what they told me that was left out of that process. Otherwise, that permit would have never been issued as the site plan was drawn. And so I think they have a reasonable, based on what they've said today, I think they have a reasonable thing to say, we did what we were supposed to do. I would tell them privately a different story, but I think based on what we're hearing today, and I think that we need to work to go forward. I like the applicant solution. Let's all get together and figure this out, because it looks like we all have a little bit of skin in the game. So,
And so, Mr. Chairman, while they're all getting together to fix this out, why shouldn't some of the work be studied?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Is my point, right? And also, just for my edification, tell me again why the encroachment has to be resolved. Why it was so important. I'm looking,
7
and-
feet
Yeah,
on
it's,
the back edge.
so it's 7 feet on the back end.
And at an angle, 7 feet. It's not even, it goes from 0 to 7.
We need 20 feet off the back of those townhomes
Okay.
to the property line.
Okay?
And
Okay, so moving at 7 feet encroaches on that.
Encroaches on that.
so we, the line, I think what you're viewing, may I?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think what you're viewing,
It's not the site plan, it's the
Yeah.
development drawing.
So I'm saying, is there 20 feet between here and here?
sure.
Okay.
There is 20 feet between this wall and this wall. We
Okay.
need 20 feet between this wall and the property line.
Yeah.
And, okay.
So we had a couple different options in terms of a variance, but the variance that really moves us down the road, the resolution that really moves us down the road is to get the garage on to the correct parcel
Yeah.
Okay.
and then do a
Okay.
zero lot line.
I think
Okay.
we're really fortunate that there's no utility easement down through there,
Yeah.
too, aren't we?
I don't think that would impact it, but Happy to have that discussion
Yeah.
another time.
Yeah. Anyway, okay.
All right.
Commissioner Elmer, I thought you looked like you might have a question or two, or three.
Or 20. No, actually, I mean, if, the thing is, what you're looking at also is a zero lot line, because you're saying that the encroachment of the other property is 7 feet, and it doesn't meet the 20 feet setback to the property line because of the encroachment. What does that fit? Am I misunderstanding?
The property line currently does not allow for the correct setback. So if the property line, am I backwards on this?
So the back of the residences to the property line would have been the 20 feet, but with that extra 5 feet that the garage is over that property line, we would have to give the 0 lot line, which would allow the extra foot off of the back of the garage. Therefore, staff would be able to give a 10% variance for
Which is
that.
what wasn't being clarified.
Yeah, the 10% variance.
That was not being
Okay,
clarified at
that's a
all.
staff as opposed to a,
Correct, yeah.
Process.
And I'm sorry, I think I
Okay.
got something right, exactly wrong in there, but yeah, it's, the variance has,
Okay.
has nothing to do with where anything is being
That
built.
makes sense.
It is,
Right.
yeah.
Because it would be, I mean, it would be for both properties,
Yeah.
though.
Well, the other property would have to go to a BZA because the variance is more than the 10% that we would allow.
Correct, right.
Sure.
But yes.
But
there
the other
be
would still have
variances
variances.
For
The-
both properties.
an
Right.
administrative variance, yes.
And that was not clarified.
Okay,
And-
I
and-
apologize.
Okay.
okay.
All right, so where does this leave us, Mr.
Well,
Chairman?
where it leaves us is, I'm hearing a consensus that we think that the application for I've lost my term now, what do we, conditional use permit, at this point, they've all been met. There's still some conditions that have to be met in order to go forward with the project from the building permit stage forward. And those are gonna have to be met by the developer. The onus is on the developer to get those met so they can build the project out like they want. But I think for our intents and purposes, I think we've answered all the questions we need to answer. I think we have everything on the record that we need to have on the record. And so I think now it's just a matter of, do we want to change the findings or accept the findings, number one? And then number two, after we've done that, then do we want, with what we take on item number one, do we want to then recommend to the city commission approval of the conditional use permit, or do we want to recommend that they don't approve the conditional use permit?
All right.
So I have a question on number 1. It says resolution of structure built over southern property line before issuance of building permit, but there's also the variance that we're just now hearing about. Do we want to have that as a condition to add?
The variance would have served as the resolution. That condition was acknowledging that there were potentially many avenues to go down when resolving this issue, and the variance was what we see as the most fitting solution, but we understood that there was opportunity for discussion as this project progressed.
Okay.
So you can clarify it, narrow it down to a variance, or our recommendation was a resolution.
Leave it
just
kind
I-
of open.
Well, my thing is we've had questions about different projects that's come in the past, and people have asked, well, why did we do this? Well, why was it done this way? If we had it clarified, it would be easier for something to look back in the future as to why we did what we did and the reason for why we did it. And it would also clarify for any citizen in the future who came up and was looking for their own resolution to a problem similar, because it sounds like as if this may not be the only one in the future, it may possibly come up again. And if we had it clarified,
So you're asking for staff to just add more clarifying language to
Yes.
number one?
yes.
I appreciate that comment. I would be very hesitant to make a condition on this personally, from staff's position.
No,
that-
not to make it not to make it the condition,
It's
just,
to clarify, because,
just clarify. We want to move on, but just,
clarifying resolution by variance, because that is then adding some complexity to that,
To
con-
that.
It
to that
limits, it
condition.
limits the options. If the option were what we were talking about earlier.
Okay, all right,
It limits
yeah,
the
yeah.
options.
Okay, I see what you mean, yeah.
Um,
It's hurting him towards a cul-de-sac.
But regardless
matter what,
of the
it's hurting.
options,
Yeah,
whatever
no
we
matter
see,
what, it's-
This is Diana. I guess my question is, can we add language to the finding that doesn't necessarily limit the conditional use permit, just to explain what the situation is more clearly, I think is what I'm hearing, Commissioner
Elmer?
Elmer, thank you, sorry. That's what I'm hearing you say, that we're not adding this as additional condition to the conditional use permit, but as information in the findings.
So that would be added to, I think that there was a bullet item, 10, other factors that the planning commission may deem relevant for facts and evidence presented in the application. Is that what you're suggesting? Because in findings 10, right now, it says that staff has found no other relevant factors. But if we added that for clarification, it would at least be documented? Is that what you're meaning, Diana?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, because it is a finding that there is this property line issue, but there could be multiple ways to solve it. So I don't want to say that the conditional use permit must include a variance, because perhaps that's not the right answer. I mean, the applicant for the property could choose to do something very different that would move things around more, and they wouldn't even need the variance. So I hate to put that limitation in there, but there is a finding of a property line issue.
No, that was not originally stated.
Comfortable stating that?
So my question for you, Chairman, is what options do we have this evening with all of this?
well,
Yeah,
our options are to accept the staff findings as our own. The options are to modify the staff findings and vote to accept the staff finding, or accept the findings as modified as our own. And then should we do that, then the next motion would be to recommend that the city approve or disapprove the conditional use permit. I think, and I do appreciate what both of you are saying about clarification, but I think for us, that's getting too far down into the weeds. I think that's, it's in here,
It's not clear, though.
but I don't think it can be. I truly don't think it can. Mr. Applicant, would you have something? Please just come up so they can hear you, get you on tape.
As it relates to the conditional use permit, there should be nothing tied to our application for this conditional use permit that has anything to do with the property line setback to our south. They're totally different entities. And should we become really charitable, and I've already talked to Mr. Neese about this, we could just deed that property to them and then decide whether we want to pursue damages or whatever, and we have an adjusted lot line that meets our criteria, and we move on.
Yeah.
So trying to put these other things in there are irrelevant to our conditional use permit application, in my opinion. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate that
Mr.
comment.
Chairman, what, given the fact that we have staff findings, we'll speak to the findings themselves. What is it that we have heard tonight that would prevent us from accepting the findings as presented by staff?
To my estimation, nothing
Nothing.
would do that.
Nothing, yeah.
I think, I appreciate the commissioner's concern that we have more language, but I think that goes in the wrong direction. And I, just from professional experience in the real estate business, I think that's just takes us in the wrong direction. Anytime you have a contract that gets too specific, then you go, why didn't we think about this? And it's too late to have thought about that. And
In that case, Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the findings as presented.
there is a motion to accept the findings as presented. Is there a second?
I will second.
Commissioner Kane.
Member
on
Kane?
Zoom-
Yep.
Zoom seconds. Any further discussion on the motion?
Let me reread the conditions of approval, because that's what we're doing, is we're putting a conditional use. We're approving a conditional use on the property. And so resolution of structure built over the southern property line in before issuance of a building permit.
Building permits plural, not a building permit.
Well,
Building
correct.
permits plural.
Permits, that is correct. There is an S there. So it is not our concern on how that resolution happens. The reason, I'm talking this through out loud.
Sure.
There is not, so the variance itself is part of this number one resolution.
It's a potential avenue.
Potential avenue.
We did not give them a firm, must do a variance, must do this
For
process
us,
because.
for us, we
Sure.
just want a resolution.
Mhm.
Right, that's, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm fine, we're good.
Commissioner Storesnik, Dean, you had some concerns that, are you understanding that, that we are, what we're not doing is closing any door to them if we pass it in this particular order?
I think I believe that language covers the situation, because in the event that the variance isn't granted, it still offers creative options to still solve that problem, which is all we're asking, a resolution to that problem. So I think that's fair.
Okay, thank you. All right, so hearing those two concerns, if I hear no more concerns, would you call the roll, please?
Member Storesnik Dean,
Yes.
Member Elmer,
Yes,
Member Crowley, Chair Lantis.
Yes.
Member Kane,
Yes.
Vice Chair Winika.
Yes?
Motion passes. Next item is a motion to recommend to the City of Ottawa that they approve the conditional use permit.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend, motion to recommend approval of the conditional use permit for Wilson North Village to the City Commission.
Is there a second on that motion?
I second.
Commissioner Elmer seconds. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Vice Chair Winika,
Yes?
Member Storesnik Dean,
Yes.
Member Crowley, Member Kane,
Yes.
Chair Lantis,
Yes. Member Elmer.
Yes.
Thank you all for your discussion, and thank everybody here for having a civil discussion about this issue. So it's always good to have those, because sometimes they're not so much that way. Are there any commissioner comments pertaining to anything that's not on the agenda tonight? We'll start with our Zoom people. Commissioner Kane, do you have anything?
I do not have anything further to bring forward.
Okay, Commissioner Storesnik Dean?
I do not.
And again, we want to thank you for climbing out of your sick bed to ensure we had a quorum and we could go forward tonight. So we really appreciate your sacrifice tonight.
Well, I apologize for being a bit discombobulated, but I'm on day 4 of COVID right now, so it's not fun.
No, not a pleasant thing. And we appreciate your attendance tonight. Commissioner Elmer, do you have anything?
I have nothing. Actually, between now and the next time we meet, we will have a holiday of Thanksgiving and just giving thanks for things that are happening in the community.
Very good. Vice Chairperson Juanita,
I will not be here. I will have traveled to Africa with some students.
so you'll be on quarantine
I'll be in quarantine when I come back.
for our next meeting. My only comment again is I want to appreciate everybody. This is a difficult one, and it has nothing to do with anybody in this room is the issue on it. And so, I know our new director, niece is going, oh my God, what did I get myself into with this group? So, but, I think we all are working toward the same goal.
We'll make it.
We're all working
Christmas
toward the
cake
same
for
goal.
him.
So, yeah, we'll invite him to have a glass of eggnog with us sometime.
Can we go back and do the consent agenda? We did not.
Oh,
do
yes, we most certainly can.
that. Yeah.
Yes. All right, we have a consent agenda, and it's August 31st, 2023 study session minutes, the September 13th, 2023 regular meeting minutes, the September 28th special meeting minutes, and the October 11th meeting minutes, and I believe we modified those a little bit. So we would be recommending approval as modified. I hear a motion to approve.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion for adjourn, announcements. The next regularly scheduled Planning Commission study session will be held Thursday, November 30th, 2023. And the next regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting will be held Wednesday, December 13th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Now, we got it all in there that you
Thank
need?
you.
Okay, good. So now we'll have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.